from my face. You know, you can feel these things happening. Demon kabuki mask.
Stay with me, because we're going to walk through every heart-pounding second of it. I'm not here to tell you Bigfoot is real. I'm not here to sell you a costume in the woods. What I'm going to do is lay out one man's account exactly as he told it. The timeline, the location, the tiny details that don't add up to a hoax. Cary was an experienced hunter, 7 years on the same 240 acres. A man who could tell a jake from a gobbler at 40 feet in the dark. This isn't a shaky 1-second clip. It's a full, sober, terrifying testimony. So before you decide what he saw, hear all of it. Let's go back to the beginning.
What you're about to see is a full account of what happened to Cary in the South Mississippi woods in the spring of 2007.
Before any of this, Cary was ordinary. Go to work, come home, do it again. No obsession with the woods, no cameras in the trees. Just a young man in his mid-20s, living the plain, forgettable life most of us live. The kind you only realize was peaceful once it's gone. Then 1999 arrived, and life came apart at the seams. In roughly 10 months, Cary lost 9 people closest to him. 9. His grandparents, his best friend, and both of his parents. Married 42 years, who died just 4 months apart. He was 26 years old, the baby of the family, suddenly the one left standing at 9 gravesides. Grief like that doesn't arrive as sadness. It arrives as noise you can't turn off, and a silence you can't fill.
It just started going downhill. I mean, there were...
Yeah, you had some rough...
9 people, yeah, 9 people that were very close to me, including both my parents, grandparents, my best friend.
There's an old saying that death comes in threes. Cary put it plainly. Mine came in threes 3 times. 3 and 3 and 3 again inside a single year. So he did what a lot of people do when the world stops making sense. He pulled away from everyone, he stopped answering, and he pointed himself at the one place that asked nothing of him.
They come in threes. Well, mine came in threes 3 times.
3 times,
yeah.
Something
Yeah.
worth pausing on here. Wilderness has always been where grieving people go to disappear. Not to find something, but to feel small enough that the pain has room to breathe. Cary wasn't chasing legends. He was running from a life that had emptied out. That's important, because it means the last thing on his mind for 7 straight years was Bigfoot. He wasn't looking, which is exactly why what he found matters. It started as escape and became a life, 300 days a year in the woods. Not a weekend hobbyist, a man who lived by the seasons, who read the ground like a page. And that's the detail I want you to hold on to as this story turns. When a man like this tells you something didn't look right, he has 10,000 hours of right to compare it to.
Before I put myself out in the woods for 300 days a year, I mean, I was just regular, go to work, you know, come home kind of guy.
He found his refuge on 240 acres nobody else would touch, but that land had a secret. Why? One the owners had lived with for 50 years.
I thought I got really lucky, you know. A friend of mine, and we happened to work together, was telling me about his grandfather having some property that nobody ever hunted on. You know, the whole family lived up there, but nobody ever hunted it. So I had him fix me up with his grandfather, went up there, met with him, and just the nicest people you'd ever want to meet, you know. And he said a lot of things then. He was about 82 at the time, and he wasn't going to take anything. I offered him half of everything I took out of there, and he said, yeah, that'd be fine, you know. Nobody else is going to hunt back there.
That would never happen today with somebody of our generation. You know, it took an old guy to really bridge that gap, you know.
Yeah, and I can remember him, we were talking one day about because there's no animals. They didn't have a dog, cat, nothing around.
Never had pets.
They never had chickens, nothing. He's like, and I remembered him telling me that they just didn't hang around.
Yeah.
You know, we couldn't get a dog.
He didn't really think any place past that.
Not as far.
But he knew that.
As far as I know, he knew all about it, and he just never said anything to me. I mean, he could have known everything.
Right.
I don't see how they could have lived there for as long as they did,
and
over
not
50 years.
Know something.
And not know something. I mean, the knocking, the constant tree knocking. that would go on.
Okay, so up until
A friend from work mentioned it first. His 82-year-old grandfather owned land nobody ever hunted. The whole family lived up there, but the back acreage sat untouched. Cary met the old man, the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. He offered him half of everything he took off the land. The old man just waved it off. A handshake sealed it. Cary would say later that a deal like that couldn't happen today, that it took a man of that generation to bridge the gap. He thought he'd gotten lucky. In a way he had. In another way, he'd just leased himself a front row seat. On paper, it was 240 acres, but Cary swore it felt bigger, shaped like an upside-down L, wild and gnarly. Topographically, he described it as a three-fingered hand of ridges, rising and falling between 200 and 400 feet, hardwood bottoms carpeted in acorns, thick travel corridors, perfect bedding cover. It was, in his words, a perfect habitat, and not just for deer. The predator population was every bit as healthy as the game: fox, bobcat, coyote, a full functioning wilderness that had been thriving long before he ever found it. But there was one thing that didn't fit a perfect habitat. The family had lived on that land for over 50 years, and in all that time, they never kept an animal. No dogs, no cats, no chickens, nothing. The old man told Cary plainly, they just didn't hang around. We couldn't get a dog to stay. He didn't explain it. He didn't need to. 50 years of empty kennels and quiet barnyards on land crawling with game. Cary didn't think much of it then. He thinks about it a lot now. Ask any Bigfoot researcher and they'll tell you the same thing. Domestic animals hate whatever this is. Dogs won't stay. Livestock won't settle. It's one of the most consistent threads across thousands of reports. The sense that something in the tree line is applying a quiet, constant pressure that animals feel long before people do. Now, there are ordinary explanations. Predators, poor conditions, plain bad luck. But 50 years on land this rich? Whatever the reason, that family had learned to live around an absence, and Cary was about to learn why. The silence had a sound too, and Cary heard it almost every single time he rode in. He'd ride his four-wheeler in from the house, park it, and start walking, and almost every time he'd hear it, knocking, powerful and rhythmic, pow, 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 pow. 4 or 5 raps like a bat swung hard against a trunk. It always seemed to come from the direction of the house, so for years he told himself the same lie. Somebody's up there beating on something, but there was never anybody. Now he believes it was them, announcing him, passing the word through the trees. He's on his way in.
And not know something. I mean, the knocking, the constant tree knocking that would go on.
Okay, so up until, so you meet the old guy, you go in, you hunted that area.
Wood knocking is one of the most documented phenomena in this field. Researchers describe exactly what Cary describes: sharp, deliberate, rhythmic raps, often answered from a second location, as if 2 of them are talking. Skeptics point to natural sources: falling limbs, woodpeckers, branches slapping in the wind, and often that's all it is. But falling limbs don't answer each other. Woodpeckers don't do 4 evenly spaced blows and stop. The pattern is what unnerves people, because a pattern implies intent, and intent implies a mind. Understand, Cary wasn't a visitor here. Every year he was clearing something, building something, cutting trees, putting in food plots for winter, spring, and summer, feeders, cameras, the whole 9 yards. Any serious hunter knows it's a year-round cycle to hunt deer on your
6
land.
years,
7 years of that.
Each
He didn't
hunting
just hunt
season,
these
you would
woods,
go
he
back,
gardened them.
hunt
He knew
deer,
this ground better than the
take
family who
deer
owned
out, nothing, blah, 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 or maybe something happened, like we're going to get into, that I know you didn't know what was going on.
Well, I was changing something or clearing something out every year.
Yeah,
You know,
always in there working.
In the summertime, or, it was camping out, in there.
Putting food plots in for winter,
food
spring,
plots,
summer.
feeders, cameras.
Yeah.
I mean, cutting
The
trees.
whole 9 yards. Anybody that hunts seriously knows that it's a year-round prep cycle.
By the 7th year, something about the deer had changed. He was getting big bucks on camera, mature, 100-inch 8 points, fully grown, but they'd only show up 30 minutes after dark, every time, like they'd learned that daylight in these woods wasn't safe. Now hunters will tell you mature bucks go nocturnal. That's normal. But pair it with the empty kennels, the knocking, the animals that won't stay, and a pattern starts to form. Something was teaching the wildlife here to move after dark.
Out way in the back. Well, what I was getting were bucks on camera, nice bucks, over 100-inch, fully mature 8-point, bucks that just were not coming out in the daytime.
So he changed his plan. He'd take his tree climber and go deep, way back, down into a bottom he barely knew, to catch those bucks in the last of the daylight. He hunted until he couldn't see through his scope anymore, and in that darkness, he heard them, turkeys, everywhere, walking through, then thundering up to roost 30 feet beside him, wings so loud in the dark it made his heart jump. It was a light bulb moment. Now he knew where the turkeys were, and that single discovery is what put him 5 months later in the exact spot where his life would change. 5 days of prep, one Saturday morning, and 30 turkeys that would tell him he wasn't alone. March 10th, 2007, a date he'll never forget because it was his ex-father-in-law's birthday. It wasn't turkey season by the calendar, but it was turkey season for him. In the 5 days before, he'd worked that spot hard, burned off the whole field of sagegrass and shortbrush, cleared his shooting lanes, set up a blind of berry bushes on elevated ground at the north edge of the clearing, where he could see down the hill and watch them come. Everything was ready. He'd done this 1,000 times. This was routine right up until it wasn't.
A lot of sagebrush, and also, come turkey season for me, it wasn't turkey season. March the 10th is not turkey season, but it was turkey season for me. I went to that area, and I think probably 5 days, for a whole week, I was out there doing something.
Right.
I burned the whole area off. It was sagebrush and, short grass. It wasn't what you see now. So I just walked all the way around and burned it. 5 days after that, when I finally got back out there, it was that morning. I believe it was a Saturday morning. It was either a Saturday or Sunday.
That morning, he parked at the house, took the four-wheeler to the top of the road, and walked the rest in. Full camo, a net mesh over his face, black paint under his eyes, a recon-style hat pulled low. He was invisible, and he had to be, because turkeys aren't smart, but their eyes are ruthless. One flick of movement, and it's over. He tucked into his berry bush blind, settled in, and laid out his tools, a mouth reed, a box call, and a locator. He was going to sound like an entire flock, and lure in the biggest gobbler out there. He called for the better part of 2 hours. Reed, box, locator, shaking it to mimic a gobble, trying to sound as convincing, as tempting as he possibly could. For a long time, nothing, just the woods breathing. And then, finally, answers, calls coming back, and down a wide game trail 4 feet across, running off into the distance until the ridge swallowed it, he saw movement. Here's why the next 30 seconds matter so much. A wild turkey is a paranoid hair-trigger survival machine. Its eyesight is 3 times sharper than ours, nearly 300 degrees of vision, and it spooks at the smallest wrong thing. A flock doesn't calmly wander off. When turkeys blow out, they blow out for a reason, a real, present threat. So when 30 of them came up that trail toward Cary, relaxed and feeding, and then every single one detonated into the air at once. Remember, they weren't running from the camouflaged man they couldn't even see. They were running from something behind them. So they came up the trail, heads bobbing over the ridge. No big gobblers, mostly jakes and hens, but a lot of them. 30, easy, 40 feet out. Then 30, his heart's pounding. This is the moment. And then the birds in front froze, perked their heads straight up, and and every single one of them exploded away in the same direction, like something was right on top of them. There was no way they'd seen him. He sat there, aggravated, listening to them crash off through the timber. And just as the last of that racket faded, he heard something else. Footsteps, walking, on 2 legs. He stood up expecting a person. What walked around that curve was not a person. 2 legs, walking, getting parallel to him. He stood up behind the big pine and looked. And there he was, a large black man coming up the trail. And that made perfect sense. The land belonged to an elderly black man. His whole family lived down that road. Sons, daughters, nieces, nephews. In Cary's mind, it was simple. One of them lost or hunting on top of him. Annoying, even a little upsetting after 7 years alone out here, but human. So he laid his shotgun down to his left, put his hand up over the back of it. A non-aggressive, I'm not going to shoot you position, and waved. I'm right here. Don't shoot me.
And there's this big pine tree here. I stood up and I'm looking, and when I finally get to see who it is, I could see just about from here up, and it's a black guy, which made perfect sense. The property belongs to, and at the time belonged to, an old black man who leased the property to me.
He kept climbing the grade, angling between two young pine trees, 10-inch trunks, 25 feet tall, about 10 feet apart, and then it reached out an arm toward one of them. That's the moment the story stops being about a man. On the inside of that arm, Cary saw dark gray skin, long hair, 5-6 inches, hanging down and hooking forward, and the forearm. He describes it to this day the same way. The size of an NFL football, far bigger than the bicep above it. The muscle sitting so high and so wrong it looks stuck on, like someone had glued it there. Then the hand closed around that 10-inch pine, and it pulled the whole tree into itself, like it was nothing at all.
10-inch pine trees, 25 feet tall. Just down that grade right there, probably 15 feet. And they were that far apart from one another. And when he came up,
and then it squared up, 100 feet away, close. Its head sat low and forward, down in front of enormous shoulders. A wide barrel-shaped body, not bulky and cut, but long, gangly arms hanging off that massive frame. When it planted itself and turned to face him full on, it suddenly looked a whole lot bigger than it had walking up. Cary's brain was still fighting it, still filing it under strange-looking guy. He was about to find out how wrong he was.
And there's one over here.
And then it opened
water.
its mouth. In that instant, the last illusion collapsed. The face changed from a regular-looking guy to something out of a nightmare. Cary calls it a demon kabuki mask. A shiny black face, huge cheeks, a heavy brow with no forehead at all, a head shaped like a football topped with a ridge of bone, a sagittal crest, a jaw so wide, he says, it could have swallowed a softball. And when that mouth opened, it made a sound, not a roar, a deep demonic vibration you didn't just hear, you felt it in your chest. No way a man makes that noise. And the worst part? It didn't feel like an animal warning. It felt personal, like it was scolding him, like he had crossed a line, and it was letting him have it.
Wide jaw, very protruding type of mouth, and when he opened his mouth, he could have put a softball in his mouth. It was humongous.
And that first time he opened his mouth, he just opened it?
Oh, it's when he started making the noise. Yeah, and it was but it was it was a very demonic sound.
It hit him like a bucket of ice water. The blood drained from his face. That deep, wrenching, sinking feeling. Constant butterflies turned up to a scream. He was petrified, frozen against that pine, gun still resting to his left. And here's the cruel twist. For 7 years, he'd carried a 7mm Magnum rifle into these woods every single time. Except today. Today he had a shotgun. 3 rounds of high brass number 4 turkey shot against a thing that looked like it could take that load and keep coming. Running never was an option. He knew instinctively that if he ran, it would chase him down and that would be the end. So he stayed, frozen, listening to something that felt like it was talking to him. Whatever happened in the seconds after this drove him out of the woods he loved for over a decade. Cary survived that morning, but the man who walked out of those woods wasn't the same one who walked in. Whatever stood 100 feet from him didn't just scare him, it rewrote his understanding of where he sat on the food chain. This was a man who lived in the wilderness 300 days a year, and he stayed out of it for more than 10. Think about what it takes to do that to a person. Now go back and stack the pieces. The family that couldn't keep a dog for 50 years. The knocking that answered itself. The bucks that only moved after dark. the turkeys that ran from something behind them. One by one, they were easy to explain away. Together, on the morning of March 10th, 2007, they added up to a face he'll never forget. So what did Cary Arnold see that morning? A hoaxer in a 9-foot suit that could rip a pine tree out of the ground? A misidentified bear that walked upright on 2 legs and looked him dead in the eye from 100 feet? Or the thing more than 30 tribes named, the boss of the mountain, the reason that land stayed empty of every dog and chicken for half a century? You've now heard the full account, every detail exactly as he told it. I want to know what you think he met on that game trail. Tell me in the comments. And if this one got under your skin, the next encounter, just as chilling, just as real to the people who lived it, is waiting for you right here. Don't watch it alone.